It's exactly 9:20. This is News and Views on
Salam Media, and in studio
the guest is Talha Bakharia. He is going to be talking to us about cryptocurrencies and obviously Agricrypt. He is the CEO of Momentum Integrated Solutions, and it gives me great pleasure to have him in the studio today, because this is another matter that kind of goes over my head. And here is a fundi that's going to unpack a whole host of issues for us. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam, jazakallah for having me here.
When and how do you fit into this space? You are CEO of Momentum Integrated Solutions, but here we are, we're going to be talking about Agricrypt and the Kargi brothers, and obviously the supposed heist. And they're out of the country now. There's a price on their heads.
Yes.
Their father was also apparently kidnapped and held to ransom. So let's start right at the beginning. Your interest in this case, when, how does this start?
So, in a nutshell, basically, what my expertise is that we basically develop the back end of such platforms. In layman's terms, you would say a marketplace. So we basically focus on, the development. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that takes months to develop. So it takes
the development
of these platforms, what they actually trade on.
Right.
So something like this. People think that I just jump in and things start rolling and that. So very similar to this. These guys. They didn't catch on until a later stage in the business, and business like this, it comes with a lot of trust. You're actually giving people a lot of money. So I assume that, in their case, that they actually had a couple of guys in the industry that they worked closely with. And from there, they started building the network around, So for them to have close to 70,000 bitcoins, it must have took some really, big time investors,
Okay, let's just get this clear.
Yeah.
You are one of those fundis that works on the back end. You actually develop these systems that people then can trade on Bitcoin.
Yes.
What do they call it?
A wallet. They call it a wallet,
and
yes.
There's also a term which is used that they talk about mining or mines. What's that all about?
That's in a totally different space. That is basically the process before the actual Bitcoin comes about,
Right.
So it's very technical on that side, So it's basically a very similar concept to the actual mining of minerals and that.
Okay.
It's just you need the final product.
Okay.
So basically.
All right, let's talk about the Kargi boys.
Yeah.
We understand that obviously a third party has now come on board and is placing their business in liquidation. And obviously RaeesCajee has come out of supposedly hiding in Tanzania to oppose the liquidation.
Yes.
What's the story there? Do you think he'll be successful? He's also claiming that the person who's wanting to put him into liquidation doesn't really have a claim against him or his company.
So what if they've actually done is they've incorporated a company in Hong Kong as well. So they have basically, when you actually get on board these platforms, there's actually an agreement that basically, it's an electronic agreement that you're basically saying that I cede my rights to these companies and everything. And what they've done is basically on that platform, before I actually came across it, it was already down. So I couldn't do proper investigation. So they have basically given clients an electronic agreement between the clients and the Hong Kong-based company. So basically, the South African company is not held liable, So in a way, they have basically helped themselves, you know.
That sounds a bit
Yeah.
sneakish, does it
Yes,
not? Because
yes,
here they've taken money from the South African public.
yes.
They've asked the South African public to trust them,
Yes.
invest in their company Agricrypt to buy bitcoins, but then
Yes.
they cede their rights to the Hong
Yes.
Kong company and leave them.
Yeah.
They're not liable for
Yes.
anything that goes wrong there.
Correct.
Do you think it was a masterminded plan to really cheat the public out of all of the money they got, and then to duck, so to speak, and then say it's not our business any longer?
I think that it's possible, you know, that a lot of people with this type of amount of money find loopholes, you know, within be it foreign investment or something like that. So I think they might have thought about it. Okay, like how do I, you know, avoid be it the taxman here in South Africa or be it the taxman in Hong Kong, you know. So I think a lot of they knew what they were doing, you know. So it comes down to what is the intention going forward, because something like this is bound to happen. You know, did they not think that this was ever going to happen? If they thought like that, then, you know, it's a day loss.
RaeesCajee has been described as a mathematical whiz kid
Yes.
in the papers, and people that have lost loads of money through dealing with Agricrypt. People who know him personally have suggested that he's got a very, very sharp mind. He's pretty young. He's in his early 20s, I should imagine. Do you truly believe that he has the wisdom, the know-how, and the maturity to have pulled off this supposed heist?
You see, the thing is with this industry, it's how they say low risk and to entry into the industry. So if basically someone watches a YouTube video or reads few articles, they think they're an expert in it, you know. So I wouldn't take it away from him that maybe he had the knowledge, you know, about how the blockchain works and everything. Maybe he does have people behind him that assisted him and guided him, because I would say like something like this volume of bitcoins, it doesn't come without influences, you know.
Okay, he's also suggesting that there's another Russian cartel that actually masterminded this heist from under their noses. Is that a possibility? And what do you believe the chances are that the South African public that have lost their money through their investment with Agricrypt, any chance at all of recouping the money lost?
So I'll point out one factor that I think maybe they had oversight of. You know, if you are holding on to so many bitcoins, I would suggest, you know, if you have proper support in maybe the cyberspace, this this hack was bound to happen. You know, a lot of the hackers do come from Ukraine, Russia. You know, so I would assume that they knew what it was going to happen, and they just failed to put the infrastructure in place to protect them from such a threat. And you see, South African people are at loss now. You know, they basically at loss.
It's a crying
Yeah.
shame. Ozzy has just written into us saying that he truly believes that there were other masterminds behind these two youngsters, and that's the very question I put to you a minute ago. Because I'm thinking they're pretty young.
Yeah.
They may be mathematical whiz kids, but do they truly have the know-how of the international money markets, etc.?
So I think in South Africa we lack that knowledge of blockchain, being Bitcoin as well. I think they do have the expertise. I think more than anything, people gave them the trust. and to actually use so much Bitcoins in their platform, it took a lot of trust.
Sadly, they're not here to talk up for themselves.
Yes.
We're hearing from third parties,
Correct, yes.
etc. We also know that RaeesCajee is opposing this liquidation. What does that tell us? Is he suggesting that he's totally innocent? That's number one. And then let's look at this other player, that's one mayor of Beta Specs, who has been granted a provisional liquidation order in April of this year, after claiming an amount of nearly 67 million rands was owed to various clients. What do you know about that?
So within my knowledge, Beta Specs is one of the clients.
His clients.
Yeah, crypto.
Okay.
Agricrypt. So I think because their clients were also at loss, they came forward to basically start recouping, what their clients have lost. And I feel that, they're trying to protect their company, Agricrypt, by opposing it. There may be some assets that are still in their possession, financial monies. So I think they're trying to oppose it and basically safeguard themselves, in that sense.
I know you're not a lawyer,
Yeah.
but they are supposedly in Tanzania. They were in hiding in Dubai for a while, at which point apparently Raees's father, RaeesCajee, was apparently stopped by unknown Pakistani nationals, and they were threatened. He was kidnapped and threatened that unless a significant amount of money is not paid over to them, they won't release the father. That case is under investigation as we speak by the Dubai authorities. The family then subsequently went to Tanzania. And it has been said that South African investors who lost money put a hit out on his father. Do you know anything about that?
From the sources of what I've heard, that they've been receiving a lot of death threats, from investors who have invested a lot on their platform. So I'm not sure why would the investor, resort to something like that. There is legal procedures to get things going, and I feel like, they've pushed the limits, and it's taken matters in their own hands, but I don't blame it at the same time, because, there haven't been any type of communications between the brothers to their clients. And basically, it has basically killed the integrity of the brothers.
Let's go back to Bitcoin. Let's go back to the back end of these systems. What are the chances that some sort of a forensic investigation can be done, and you, the expert here, that you can see where the money trail goes to, and to recoup all of the money of the people who've lost the money? Is it a type of system that you just can't get deep insight into?
So you can trace it to an extent, but there's also that factor that, once out of sight, it's gone, So it can be trailed down to maybe, I've seen some reports that there's a Ukraine IP address, that has basically hacked the platform. But once it's out of sight, it's similar to how physical cash is, if you see it in front of you and then the next thing is gone, you can't there's no tracing device that can actually, So I think there'll need to be high authorities to come into the play and help, this investigation. I know the actual Reserve Bank and the regulators in South Africa have said they need around 6 months to build such a framework. So I know China has acted fast. They have already implemented it and, helped everyone understand it. So South Africa, I think we are a couple of months behind, actually years. Yeah.
I kind of wonder, with such high risk, why people would even go into it, knowing that there is a potential to lose the money. But legal recourse, what legal recourse do the victims have? How far down the line is SARS with regards to regulating the financial technology industry? And of course, the big question here would be, how does blockchain work? So answer that first question, and then let's understand how does it work and how safe is it? Because you're just suggesting that you can get so far and then not any further.
So in a nutshell, blockchain works in like similar to if I invest money in something and that money is kept in a safe, and then the day you want to withdraw it, you put the request in to withdraw it, and then from there you basically transact with it,
Via e-wallet,
Yes.
I should imagine,
Yeah.
through your bank. You don't get, there's no
Yeah,
hard cash.
it's not tangible,
Okay.
So I'm just putting an analogy down in simple terms how this blockchain works. So it's basically something that would be hard, to comprehend, if you don't have, knowledge about it, So it's quite complicated, but it's very simple in if you understand it how I explained it. So blockchain is quite diverse, There's a lot of other platforms that are coming into play. Like I think more more secure platforms. Like in South Africa, I know in Europe they've already started doing asset tokenization. It's more a safer option because the providers of these tokens have basically showed the people that okay, there's this development happening in maybe in center. We want to raise 20 million rand.
Right.
A token costs you maybe 50 rand.
Okay.
Through the token, you can get 10% return per annum. Which sounds more realistic.
Tangible.
Yeah, realistic.
Okay.
It sounds more realistic.
Right,
Whereas with Bitcoin, the returns are fluctuating all the time. It's just if you're early to the party, you made money.
Is it safe to invest in Bitcoin? And earlier on off air, you said to me, because the risk is so high, and because the profit margin, supposedly projected profits are so high, you indicate you raised an issue around the Sharia compliancy. Talk to us about that.
So my first suggestion is to work with platforms that are reputable, that didn't have previous, they're like favorable reviews. They haven't had any hacks. That shows that the platform is robust, So I recommend, looking and like there's very South African, in the South African market, Luno has basically pushed the, wallet to the market. They are quite reputable platform that if you want to trade on, they're quite good as well. On a Sharia point of view, like I mentioned, a lot of scholars are of opinion that it is haram, because for one, it is not tangible, and it's somewhat of gambling in a sense, because you're not certain that if I invest this month, will I get 10%? Chances are that you might get a 10% return. Chances are you might just get 100, percent return. It just depends what the demand is and the supply of the Bitcoin. So that's basically what I am of opinion of.
The earlier question about the South African Revenue Services and how they can track and also the chances of perhaps recouping money that's been lost. Is it very difficult under these circumstances? But let's just look at SARS, for example, because here a lot of people could be laundering money via this platform.
So there's no secret about it that I think a lot of people have moved to launder money to legitimize, the source of incomes, and SARS, I think they are assembling a team at the moment that is basically focused on, something like this. I think immediate action wouldn't happen in the next month or two. It might just take a while from their side. But I think once everything falls in place from their point of view, the regulators in South Africa, I think, things will be more safe to start trading in South Africa. You you need a protection. You need the protection of the law. And I think the EU has done it quite well. That people are not able to just get away with something like this easily.
What do you believe would be the accepted percentage for returns on this type of investment?
It's hard to say. I think because the demand went up last year, especially when the lockdown was announced, it has been fluctuating over the past year. So I think returns between 5% to 7% would sound quite reasonable, But I think anything beyond that, there might be the market is reacting differently.
I guess,
Yeah.
like the saying goes, if it sounds too good to be
True.
true,
Yes.
then you should be wary.
Yes.
Finally,
Yeah.
my final question to you is, you're very involved in blockchain technology. It's cutting edge
Yeah.
technology right now. What comes after blockchain? What do you see on the horizon? And how's that going to impact on our lives?
So in the tech space, there's been a lot of talk about artificial intelligence, and I think a lot of corporates in South Africa are starting to invest into those platforms, because that seems to be the future now. Our life is going to be part with robots, So whether the robot is going to start trading for you for Bitcoin, so it might that's basically the next step, artificial technology in the tech space,
AI.
Yes.
Right. Nice talking to you. I can't pretend that I did understand everything you said, but I think you've given us some sense of just how this may sound very lucrative, but if you don't know
Yes.
what you're going into, then rather do thorough research,
Yes.
thorough investigation, make certain that it's Sharia compliant, and don't get your fingers burned, inshallah.
Inshallah. I always suggest do thorough research, chat with people in the industry, so they can point you to the right platforms. And then from there, it's your money, you can do what you want to do with it. Yes.
Talha, Bakharia, shukran very much for
Jazakallah.
being on the show. Good luck
Afwan.
with the work that you are doing. And you are, of course, the CEO of Momentum Integrated Solutions. Go well.
Jazakallah.
Right. I think they'd like you to say something too. Let's leave it there. We're going to take an ad break. When we get back, we can pick up from what they're trying to indicate that needs to be done here.